Hi, I'm Rory Greener reporting for XR Today. Today I'm pleased to host our monthly Big XR news show where we assemble some of the best and brightest minds in the XR space to discuss the climate of immersive solutions for businesses. Today I am joined by our series regular Jay Latta and Lewis Ballinger. And to kick us off, Jay, for new listeners, could you introduce yourself? Give us a little bit of your background and your history with XR technology. And Lewis, could you chime in a little bit afterwards and give us a little bit of a background into what you're doing at HoloLight?
Okay. So, I'm in the XR industry since, I think 2015, something like this. More or less, of course, experimented a little bit before, but we know the recent progress is the most appealing one. Before it was kind of a headache. I've been working for several bigger companies, even as head of innovation and so on. The whole XR thing is for me one of the most important in all kind of data dominated businesses because it's the explaining layer of all the other stuff around. So here, because we are visually oriented entities, 90% of our natural compute power goes into perception of what we see. So therefore, my focus on XR is really this kind of human augmentation to help the humans to better understand. Sometimes you need just to go around a problem virtually, really to go around a problem to find a new solution. So out of this, developing several methodologies, being in this area, being connected with plenty of amazing people. I'm a huge advocate for any kind of XR stuff, and of course, never being tired to advocate them.
Yes, so then I go next. So I'm Lewis, and I'm one of the co-founders of HoloLight. I'm Chief Marketing Officer, so I'm very market focused. I work with partners, and we're trying to make sure that our customers and partners collaborate with us and use our technology. HoloLight is a company based in Germany, Austria, and the US. We are around about 90 to 100 people now. Founded 2015. I'm for like 10 years now in the XR industry. And what we do is that we provide streaming technology for companies developing apps in the enterprise space. And we provide an end user application also for companies that are trying to do virtual prototyping, design reviews, and all kinds of things. And so looking forward to the conversation now.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for that. So let's start with CES. At the time of recording, it's kind of closing down. We're getting to the end points of that, what is a monumentous show for each year it happens. Something that's quite interesting, I feel, with the XR space, especially in this enterprise focus that we have here, is how there is a big presence for enterprise XR solutions at CES, generally consumer electronics show. So, Lewis, why don't you kick us off? Give us a little bit of your own thoughts around CES and how it plays into the XR market, and why is consumer electronics show? Why does it have such a big XR presence?
Yeah, absolutely. So CES is for sure an absolutely interesting and exciting time for us also, because many big players from the XR industry go there to make announcements on new hardware and software solutions. And you're right, it's a consumer-focused show. So you can find all those players introducing hardware also for the consumer market. But I think that the enterprise space is a huge driver also of the technology. And so the enterprise space and the consumer space, they kind of have to help each other to move the entire community and industry forward. So any announcement on the CES about new hardware is for sure driving also the work that we do in the enterprise space forward. The more people in the mass market know about the technology, use the technology at home, the easier it is for us also to roll out technology in the enterprise space, because technology adoption is a very, very important part of our work. And the more people know how to interact and work with these devices, the better it is to bring also all these use cases into the market. So we are looking on everything that is going on there, although we are not there with our booth this year. but nevertheless, the announcements were great, and I'm sure we will talk about some of the hardware announcements and also software releases that have been presented.
So I guess it's my turn now, right?
Of course, yes.
Look, the whole conference and event space is radically changing. It's not that we are having isolated domains anymore, these islands of nerdish cultures where automotive is just for automotive. Then we have the aerospace stuff and user consumer electronics and so on. So in fact, the CES turned into some kind of general or universal thing where even the automotives are more likely being present than at the IAA in Munich or Detroit Car Show and so on. So the consumer, maybe they should even rename it away from consumer electronic show to next generation whatever, because the consumers turned towards they are as well the employees of these companies. When smartification, where mobile phones and so on started to be used in companies, they've been already used for several years in private from the consumers. So of course, right now with all of these emerging technologies, the consumers, the people in their private lives are the forerunners. So it's of course natural that all of these companies are catching up and try somehow to lead again. So it's a perfect fit. We will see as well more events that are crossover, simply exploring to left and right, how do they impact them as well. I might even imagine that, let's say, an AWE, for example, might open up and invite different areas to talk about, not just focused on XR stuff. So here, these events are becoming more curious. The CES is one of the biggest ones, one of the most important right now. So we'll see what they will do in future with this.
Fantastic. And just to follow up, there's a couple of points that I want to expand upon. But Jay, just to follow up on the idea of this convergence of different sectors coming together. XR generally, it feels like it's a bit of a convergence there of art and science coming together to create what is a fairly unique and new community. When you go to some of these events, you can see individuals representing, say, airspace to entertainment to remote collaboration. And it's always a bit of a bit of a synergy going on there with the communities and the individuals driving those sectors. So could you perhaps, Jay, tell us a little bit about the positives and the benefits, as well as that general community aspect that is around the XR events, or, events that therefore cover perhaps emerging technologies too? Because there's also that side as well, isn't there, of AI coming in here and digital twins and all of these related technologies that make that uniformed umbrella of XR as well as its communities. And Lewis, if you could follow up perhaps on some of your experiences working with some of your enterprise clients inside that whole idea of bringing together different verticals and different individuals.
So look, all of these layers for these data-dominated businesses, for these approaches, for these technologies, they developed as isolated domains. Now, with all of these Web 4.0, 5.0, spatial web, yada, yada, and so on, all of this is merging. I mean, any kind of technology is meanwhile connected. We are having AI everywhere, analyzing data flows and so on. You have to display this as well. So my finding is that from this purely gaming and virtual reality thinksees, this community around XR developed into something that connects all the other domains. The first bigger event that I've attended after the pandemic was really something very eye-opening. It was in Madeira from the Immersive Global Summit, when the people spent time before and time after, they've been together sailing and so on. So this through, I would say, this creativity with visuals, the XR community is something that is a little bit closer to each other, that deals with each other a little bit more, because we are simply used to talk with each other in person, to deal with visuals and so on. While the blockchain people, the AI people, the yada yada and so on, they are catching up. They have to learn it. Now they still see it that they somehow have to fit into it. They still need the visualization of the whole stuff. So the community, these drivers, and you see this as well in several of these WhatsApp groups, when the XR people are going somewhere to the Web Summit, to the CES, to whatever, what's going on for side events, and how other domains are joining this as well, simply to learn from the XR people. So it's very interesting how this is developing. Therefore, as well, this merge of technologies will continue, more and more will accelerate. I don't think there will be any kind of leading whatever who is superior, and it's simply about collaboration, cooperation. And the visual context, we will have as one of the topics, for example, NVIDIA Omniverse. This is a collaboration, simulation, and visualization platform. So embedded into the whole digital twin topic, where you are driving through the visualization S-top, then you have the data prediction, which is AI, then you have the data management, the data choreography, then you have the connectivity, then you have the immutability, which is blockchain, yada, yada. So all of these are coming together. And our community started to understand that they are ecosystems, that they are part of a bigger picture. This is my take on it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I definitely say that all these conferences are very important to learn from each other also. I think the consumer market can learn from the enterprise market and the other way around. And when we are attending the events and are selecting the events that we're participating in throughout the year, we're always trying to find a balance between events where we clearly focus on the technology, on the XR community, where we know what's the hottest topics, what's the best and state-of-the-art technology, and obviously we're providing also parts of it on our own. But then it's also very important to join those events where you meet people from all kinds of verticals, where you find the users. Because on the one hand, it's important to understand what the technology can do. On the other hand, you have to come from the use case side, yeah, and you have to really think about what do you want to do. And there are some challenges that the consumer and the enterprise market have in common. Questions about how do we roll out technology, how do we make sure that the content we provide is secure. And these are things that they have in common, and then they have different challenges also, yeah, and that really go down to the use case level. And with our technology, we are also trying to address these things. Yeah, we're trying to define an infrastructure and a platform that allows the useful usage of XR. And on the other hand, we're trying to define a platform for the use cases, because in the end, when all those great devices are announced, the people want to use it in the right way. And that's what I'm personally looking forward to see in this year, how the consumer market will use these devices that are now coming to the market in like huge numbers. So on the VR side, with the Quest 3 that has been announced last year, the X-Real device that is coming, obviously Vision Pro from Apple. So this is super exciting to see, and plays a huge part also for us in the enterprise market, because although I wouldn't say that all of these devices help us in making benefit or revenue in short term, they like kind of set the ground for what's going on the next years. And then there are also these devices and solutions that we can deliver today, and that really have impact on the businesses on the business of the enterprises today.
Fantastic. There's a lot of pieces there I want to extract and talk about, but one other piece, and Lewis, if you could start with this and Jay chime in afterwards, would be about this idea of support from communities and different individuals from different backgrounds coming together. How about at a governmental and official level too? Just in terms of events, it feels like it's a good chance for, say, certain areas building up their tech hubs and their tech representations. These emerging XR spaces are a great way to invite young people with new talents, as well as just generally promote areas that are maybe looking into smart cities and other emerging technologies at a governmental or a public-facing level. Lewis, can you start us off? Do you think that support there is equally important? Is that something you've noticed or felt at all in your role?
Yeah, so the community aspect is very important. We need definitely educate more people about the technology, about what's possible with the stuff we do. And it's important to give the young people an opportunity to just get started, to try. And I like also initiatives of Augmented World Expo and so on, where they really have hackathons and things like that to invite also new people entering the space and defining things. And we see also obviously that within the enterprises there are always new departments, new people coming into this space, and it's just so great that today I don't need to start to explain what AR and VR is, but it can actually dive much deeper into a conversation, and we can really talk about challenges that we want to solve. And this has all to do with the community aspect. And it's great also that after the pandemic, the events, the in-person events came again. And for us, it's still a major channel in the end, because we think that just by getting in touch, talking with each other, we can drive things forward. That's why we also attend, for example, technology events like the NVIDIA GTC, where we talk with other people about the technology that we want to drive forward, building the background, the infrastructure for the use cases to enable the scalable usage also of the technology. And on the other hand, we really like to go to events like the Hannover Messe in Germany, where you really find people from all kinds of verticals, mainly manufacturing, automotive, and these areas. But it's really important to get into the conversation with the people to make sure they can use the technology hands-on, and then I think we are able to move things forward.
Communities, extremely important. This support, this collaboration, cooperation. I've seen some governmentally started initiatives. I know, for example, the catapult system in the UK, which some are really nice. I know the initiatives from JETRO, for example, the Japanese trade organization, very helpful, very trying to push their own people. Of course, there are some other trade organizations, chambers of commerce, initiatives, and so on. They suck. They are absolutely not helpful where they are from governmental perspective, just bureaucrats that are making some kind of, how we call it in Germany, Wandertag, just walking around, seeing something, someone else pays for it. Here, for example, I definitely call the eHub initiative into it a complete waste of resources. When we are looking into corporate support, all of their hubs, it depends on the structure, because mostly in corporates, they misinterpret all of these innovative hubs as to make an own career. So it's really innovative if it's unconditional. So the mother company gives you the money and you do with it whatever you think should be done. Instead of fighting about the budgets, because mostly companies are ruled by the CFO. So here, of course, if it's in balance, if you really can experience, if you can play around, figure out, then you are on a quite good way. There are some companies who are doing a very good job, while others are just pretending to do something. But finally, it's really about the people. How Louis said, some of my ex-colleagues from my former companies, you see them at other companies. So a whole department, for example, went to a software provider from the XR sector. So here we are we try to include, but we are an exclusive community. You know the people, and they support each other. So whenever there is a possibility, when I need to know something, I know whom to ask, and they will always guide me through, give me recommendations, and so on. Let's say the garage from Microsoft, Mike Pell, is a huge forerunner on this. Whenever there is a possibility to involve him and so on, he always can as well help me with connecting into this area. What he's doing in New York in his garage is really something amazing. So I always recommend, hey guys, go visit what he's doing on the XR sector, the hackathons. So it's really about the community. strength of the community, and trying to be helpful.
Fantastic. And one more key point I really wanted to take from your answers there is this idea of education around XR. So, teaching enterprise end users, and then also at a consumer level, what XR actually is. And we're talking a lot here about enterprise technology, but could we perhaps talk about how developments in the enterprise space, as well as the consumer space, how this technology trickles down? Because part of XR, or education in XR, is device ubiquity. And like the smartphone becoming a device everyone uses at work, that only happens through day-to-day, not acknowledgement, but using it day by day. So, Jay, could you perhaps touch on how this technology is trickling down to enterprise from the consumer sector, and how perhaps having a Meta Quest 2 under someone's Christmas tree could then translate to making that conversation about introducing XR into the workplace a little bit easier? And Lewis, please follow up.
So the thing is quite easy, because all the people in the corporates, when they want to deal with something like this, the biggest talents that they can get on the market is more or less game developers. Fresh from the university, ETH Zurich has a huge gaming department. So it's in Europe, a whole epicenter in Zurich, where Disney Labs is there, Google has their people there, and so on and so on. So if you are, let's say, an automotive or an industrial player and you want to do something with immersive stuff, then of course, mostly you get the people who know Unity and Unreal, period. So they bring simply their own personal developments, their own experiences into the corporate. If you are getting, let's say, one of these Meta devices under your Christmas tree, you bring it with you into the office, simply talk with a few people, reach out to the innovations department, let's say, and simply to figure out, hey, I've seen here something that is so amazing. I love this game. Do we have something similar? So this happened, for example, to me several times when I've been in innovations in the automotive, when we've simply talked about their private experiences with their smartphones, with their devices. I had one of my first Oculus devices. Then I brought into the office. I borrowed from Avegant their helmet. Simply brought it into the office, showed it to the people, turned on the Terminator mode on, and so on. So that they simply can experience this hands-on, to play around, is one of the most important, if it has nothing to do with your business, but you can experience how it is to grab things virtually. You can imagine if you upload a virtual desktop, that they see, okay, I have here an infinite monitor. I can see this is spatial computing. So with all of these smaller progresses, and the people in the office, in the industry, repeatedly being confronted with this until they really commit to it, this is the most efficient way.
I would say that the developers are like the content creators, yeah. And if we see new devices like an Apple Vision Pro coming to market, I say that the hardware and the technology convinced me a lot, but the use cases that have been presented in the videos so far, they were not that convincing to me. At least for the enterprise space, there was not much to see, and also for the consumer market, this reason why should I invest $3,500 in the device has not been finally answered, and that's why it's so important that the developers start doing things, creating things, and devices like the Quest 3 with its 400, 500 euros price point. This is great, yeah, because the access is much easier, and it's the same in the enterprise space. When we're thinking about a use case and we define the business case behind, obviously a lower price point on the hardware side improves the whole our ROI calculation totally. So I think this is really great, and nevertheless, we need also this high quality pro devices that definitely show us where the technology is going. Yeah, and I'm sure also that even on the Apple side, there are people who were crazy about the brand and the product, and that's why they will just start doing it. From our side as a company, we're trying to give people and developers easy access to technology. We have a streaming SDK ourselves, and we know that it has to be easy to get access to it and go and try with it. And this is something that we can do from our side as someone in the industry to push things forward. But I'm sure that the number of developers will grow, and I totally agree to what Jay said. All the people who come from the game design industry and so on, they are perfectly fitting. And that's if I think about our first developers joining HoloLight, these were exactly those people. Yeah, we were the first developers have been hired, I think, at the Gamescom, yeah, in Cologne. Yeah, so nowadays things are like a little bit more broad, but building up those community of creators is super important and will help us in getting more benefit out of the hardware and find new use cases.
One add-on to what Louis said, it's very important that these creatives, these content creators, that they do not just do their everyday business. We have to keep in mind an industry is mostly profit-oriented. They do not like to experiment. If it's automotive, if it's let's say someone who builds stuff for kitchens and so on, conveyor belts, yada yada. These people are busy with their regular business, with staying profitable. So it's up to these innovators that have an idea. Maybe they grab an XML or UML out of a process flow, yada, yada, whatever, and simply show their management, hey, this is how it looks like in 3D, in spatial. Because mostly, as a white collar, you cannot imagine things. You are so trapped in your daily workflows, and you need to be ripped out of this. This is how I've done it, that I've simply hired someone, hey, I would like to have a process visualization where you can step back and simply see it like a time frame, whatever, that you can simply see how the processes are interconnected. So this lack of imagination in your everyday's job, it's not just from innovations management, from the tech offices, from the accelerators and so on, but everyone who has a cool idea should reach out to their dev people and talk with them. Hey, can we build a small MVP, fake it before make it, just to convince someone there is this potential in it? Then we can really make the whole thing far better than it is.
Fantastic. And Lewis, just to follow up with what you're discussing the Vision Pro there. So let's just quickly move on to some hardware release before wrapping up about some top events for the year. So you mentioned the Vision Pro. I want to talk about some other little hardware and software pieces, but one key takeaway I think a lot of people have had from the Vision Pro outside of its potential use cases and price point and hardware is the spatial computing vision they have. And you mentioned earlier about game designers coming into the sector, and it feels like perhaps roles are being redefined or new roles are being found. And within the XR space, within the past 2 years, we've had terms such as metaverse, industrial metaverse, spatial computing coming through as terminology or maybe marketing phrases to sell what is a new technology for most people who maybe don't understand it. Vision Pro, though, they seem to be avoiding AR, VR, MR, moving straight towards spatial computing. Could you perhaps give us a little bit of an idea behind how you feel about that spatial computing terminology? Do you think it's going to catch on? Do you think Apple are doing the correct thing by very clearly differentiating themselves in the market?
Mm. So yeah, the terminology is always a difficult topic. Yeah. The metaverse example is, I think, pretty good because I think 2 years ago everybody wanted to do something in the metaverse, and obviously you want to make use of the fact that people search in their Google search bar for it, and you want to show up with your website. But I think one thing that we always did is we never changed the things we do. Sometimes we used a different wording, but it's not like we changed what we do. I think spatial computing is also a terminology that Microsoft has used a lot when introducing HoloLens in 2015-16. So they used obviously mixed reality, but they were using also spatial computing. They were using expressions like spatial understanding and so on. So it's just about getting everything into 3D. So I like the term spatial computing a lot, and I think it's something that we can absolutely use. And I like a lot that Apple finally entered the market. It's something that has been forecasted every year since across the last 10 years that I'm in the industry, and it's really good that they are there with a first generation device. Yeah, that is looks very promising. And all the enterprise customers we talk to, they're definitely interested to have it and to have a look what they can do with it. Although I wouldn't say that this has the biggest impact on revenues of the ISVs, software web vendors this year. I think this will be very, very important. And I like the technology, obviously, the features it has, the quality of how it is designed is great. And I think it shows that there is a clear trend from classic virtual reality devices into this mixed reality devices, where you have the color pass-through, where you include the environment with the camera view. And this is something that all the other hardware providers will also add. Some have already added it, like the Meta Quest 3, and I like this color pass-through a lot. And the question for me is like, can it replace the classic AR see-through that some of the head-mounted displays like Magic Leap and HoloLens have? I don't think so in short term, mainly because of some regulations and safety aspects. But from use cases, it opens up the world of use cases and adds this next level component. And that's what I love so much about Vision Pro, about Meta Quest 3, about Lenovo VRX, and also devices like the Sony one that has been announced just lately. I think this will open up new opportunities, and it will be like evolutionary step for the virtual reality world, maybe even bringing AR and VR closer together, which is something that totally makes sense.
Wording, terminology. Honestly, it's already fucked up. Mostly people are using augmented reality and describe mixed reality. So the marketing meaning behind all of this is already completely messed up. Metaverse stuff burned down every bridge. So it's really, it is a good take to reshape it, to start from scratch, to call it spatial computing. When I'm giving my presentations, mostly I use this kind of sphere around a user, which is in fact a spatial computing where you can look into every direction and have it as your own area. So this was simply a necessary step. Spatial computing as well is some kind of emancipation of different technologies, because it should be multimodal and interoperable. It should not matter what kind of resolution you are using, what kind of brand you are using. It's even not if it's VR, if it's MR, whatever, because the VR stuff is just the layer behind. The assets that you deal with need to be same for any kind of representation. So spatial computing, to take it as this overall thing, is quite a good move. I guess even while Apple stuff is always a little bit more pricey, in my opinion, it's price worthy. Of course, it's a pro device. If you look how much an X-Style, how much a Vario costs, come on, it's not that far away. So here it's important that, or to understand that Apple with their devices sets up a benchmark where everyone is observing it, and then they will try to fulfill somehow this kind of benchmark with lower pricing, with something different, yada, yada. So it will be just an enrichment of the whole ecosystem. So that it will start to develop again, developing new areas. And for spatial computing, it's as well extremely important for us humans to learn about new interaction. That it's not about a virtual keyboard where you type in somehow in the middle of the air and everyone who sees you from outside thinks you are completely crazy, a lunatic walking around, close him away. We need to figure out, what does it mean? How do we interact with it? I mean, we three on this call, we will need different UIs, different experiences. When we want to do something, the background should be different. We are the only ones who know what makes us, each individual, most creative. if we want to have a UI that looks like a fireball or that looks like something different. So this multimodality, again, is a representation of your individual approach. And here, spatial computing to design your own areas, even on the industrial level, when every worker who uses this can simply tweak it and have it at its own efficiency. I'm quite positive about this. And the more devices will come around, we just should focus on not to mess it up and close everything down again. Because then you have just the Meta ecosystem, and then you have just the Sony ecosystem, and so on. No, this should be prevented from the beginning on. Really multimodal, interoperable, and then of course the whole Meta thing sees the connectivity layer between digital twins. I mean, digital twins not just of the factories, but a digital twin of your products, digital twin of your health. This is in what direction we should go.
Fantastic. And you both touched on this, but just to sort of go a little bit deeper, Jay, we'll start with you before moving on to Lewis. You're talking about these new products that are coming out, whether it be the Apple Vision Pro, whether it be the X Real, the Sony product. Meta's obviously going to continue releasing hardware, releasing products, whether it be through their Ray-Ban collaboration, between their behind-the-scenes AR smart glasses work, as well as just the Quest portfolio as a whole. So between some of these major companies, how do you feel like it's laying less so creating ubiquity and sort of worldwide adoption, but more so working towards making that foundation? Because pure ubiquity in the workplace, even on a consumer level, is still far away. But how these new products, rumored, coming out, or already out, helping to build that foundation for 2024 and then beyond?
So, of course, in the beginning, it will still be siloed because you have to learn about it. You need to learn what does the competition, quotation marks, make a little bit faster, a little bit better. What do the content creators like about most? So it's some kind of evolution process, not a revolution. It's an evolution where each player will start learning about each other and then offer something where you seamlessly can go from one island to the other until we reach this universal thing. It's important to understand human centricity. It's not that the humans, the users, have to adapt on the technology. These times are over. But now these technologies, and here visual or XR is or spatial is the most important driver. All of these technologies now start to adapt on our needs, how we use it, how we need it, how do we want to express and see ourselves. So ubiquity is nice. It will not turn into uniformity anymore, but we will see a huge variety of cross interpretations of different approaches, maybe even that you design your own sandbox and all the devices, all the platforms simply have to use your sandbox so that you see it how you would like to have it. Like you remember when Firefox started to make all of these themes when you had your browser completely adjusted onto your flashy colors and so on. I'm expecting through XR or through spatial computing that your individual approach will look to you slightly different than it looks to your other people. So this ubiquity will be towards highly adopted individuality, where you will become the most efficient as well through other streams like LLMs, like whatever kind of supportive generative AI, yada yada nonsense. So here simply all of these technologies that dock onto it, how I've said it before, these 5 technological layers will help us, if we don't fuck it up, will help us to become more efficient, faster, better, smarter, hopefully smarter. And so I'm really right now still very positive about this development.
Mhm. I think, yeah, we are also very positive about the things that lie ahead of us. To be honest, the hardware market has always been difficult in the last years, and it still is. As a software provider, you heavily depend on hardware. That's clear and obvious, and it was very painful very often in the past because we have high expectations. We've seen great devices being launched years ago, like a HoloLens, and others not catching up on that. Not at least in the speed that would be necessary. Yeah? But still, with the latest releases, we are very happy. And I think what's important and what's part of our thinking is we think cross-platform. We think about use case first, and then selecting the device which just fits the use case. Which we think in solutions, yeah, because the hardware and the software package is the solution, and even more around it. Yeah? And I think that what I like a lot is that we have platform providers underneath, like Qualcomm, providing the chipset that most of the hardware vendors are using. And it's also our goal to help and bring more things together. So different ISV solutions on one platform being streamed to multiple devices. This is part of our thinking. I think that will and the hardware releases that have been announced, they help us. Although things that have been announced just this month will not be shipped short term, yeah. So I think the device landscape for this year is set. I believe a lot in the Quest 3, on the see-through side, on a Magic Leap, still on the HoloLens, yeah, for at least for this year. Then we'll see what will happen. And I think, yeah, that's super exciting. It will be an exciting year. And I think for us, it's trying to get the maximum out of the hardware that we have at the moment. And then I think the number of users will increase a lot in 2024.
Fantastic.
Let me interrupt here a bit and hop in. You've said the beginning of the HoloLens. I completely agree with you because I had it similar in my previous company. You've been forced to justify these high costs because the ecosystem was smaller, the necessary budget owners, they lacking of imagination. So the use cases, even the technological pain was there. Not enough compute power, the resolution, the connectivity, the cloud, yada, yada. Right now, we have the necessary compute power. We have players like Qualcomm, like NVIDIA, who are delivering really very, very interesting chipsets. You are having right now the necessary resolutions where your eyes simply do not hurt anymore. And the platforms, or even here, if it's Unity, if it's Unreal, what they are doing right now, what is possible. And we have more content creators. So right now, the market, the availability plus the use cases are already there. Everyone knows what we are talking about. So it should be right now far easier if the people are willing to go this way. And here again, it's now up on the content creators to showcase with the toolset that they have, with the frameworks, what is possible. And even if it's a small, crappy MVP that just gives the necessary budget owners the glimpse of an idea, what potential is there, then it's an easy game.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. We've only got about 15 more minutes or so to go. So I just want to wrap it up with a couple more questions, just forecasting future events for the year in terms of XR, of course. Lewis, why don't you start us off? You've mentioned a couple of events already, whether it be AWE or even more in-house events, let's say with NVIDIA, GTC, and their own sort of showcase platform there. Could you perhaps tell us, and Jay, please follow up with some of the XR events that you're keeping your eye on in terms of HoloLight and maybe yourself personally, and why you're keeping an eye on those events, and perhaps why should our readers too?
Yeah, I'm happy to give you a little bit of an overview about where we think we need to be this year. I think for us, it starts with the MWC in Barcelona, because at HoloLight, we're not just providing an end-user application, but I mentioned it, infrastructure, streaming technology, and the platform below. So it's for us a great opportunity to work together with telcos, with the network providers. So we'll be there. Then you're right, the in-house events of these big tech giants, they are very interesting. We will join NVIDIA GTC because obviously GPU, Omniverse is also part of our solution, and also their offerings in on the server side, they are great, and we like to collaborate with them and push things forward. Then we have these classic, I'd say, community XR events like Augmented World Expo, something we definitely attend in Los Angeles this year. We also go to a couple of other events that are focused on XR and very enterprise focused, like Augmented Enterprise Summit. That has been a great event where you find a lot of expertise. It's just to think 1,000 or 1,500 people, but man, you have a lot of brains there. It's really cool to all the conversations. And then we have these industry events, like a Hannover Messe in Germany is an event that we will join, because it's so great to talk to the end users and to the users of the technology and go within different verticals. Yeah. There are so many smaller events that you could attend. Probably the number of events is too big to go everywhere. But if you find something locally in your area, I think it's definitely worth checking out it and stop by. Especially if there's someone new in the business, this is a good way to start. And I think for us, it's a mix of events, yeah, because we have different goals for each event. Some are to generate leads, potential business, and some are to build up partnerships or intensify partnerships. And I think based on that, we make our selection. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's a little bit easier. I do not have to sell a specific product. I'm selling visions, more or less, and helping with the approaches, how to set up a hub, how to build an innovation department, and so on. So my focus is more on, of course, beside of the bigger things like CS, like AWE, like Hannover Messe, we'll see. I know. I will be more often in Middle East this year. GITEX, mid of February, I'm in Riyadh. To talk about smartification of innovation. Of course, all the smart environments areas like the line, like NEOM, yada yada. There is a lot of opportunities where visualization is as well extremely needed. I will be more on anything about from the industrial topic on aerospace. Again, from the visualization perspective to make, let's say, for example, a spatial spatial airline concept for the whole navigation and so on. And I'm very sorry to say, defense innovation is as well something where I'm very deeply embedded into it for visualization, very important with all of these new technologies. South by Southwest is one of my core events this year in March. So this crossover where immersive or spatial is part of a bigger solution, this is where I'm ongoing.
Fantastic. And finally, just to wrap up and to give our listeners something to take away and use with this as well, on top of all the fantastic information you've given us, of course. Jay, could you perhaps give us your top advice or maybe a little bit of guidance for an enterprise individual or perhaps just anyone attending an XR event? What's the best way for an individual to get something out of an XR event? Any advice you'll give them? And Lewis, if you have any thoughts about how to get the most out of an XR event, please share that before we wrap up for the day.
So the main magic behind physical events is that you talk with people. So stay curious, reach out to the people, reach out to the speakers. The magic happens as soon people connect and start talking with each other. Even if there is someone just walking by, he hears some kind of trigger word and then he starts talking with you. So this is really the main thing. Connecting entities, connecting people, talking with each other, exploring new ideas. The second most important is your expectations. Stop thinking inside of a. There is no fucking box. Be curious. Imagine the unimaginable. This is really the most important. Talk with people. Reach out to Louis and simply, there is no wrong question. Reach out to these people. Talk with them. Tell them your craziest ideas. there might be something they can simply say, it makes sense.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I mean, I like all the talks, but I unfortunately never have time to join them, and so I'm mostly talking with people. Yeah, and I think what's always important for us and things and questions that I'm asking, but not everyone might ask it, is I'm trying to get an understanding of where the person is in his or her personal XR journey, because based on that you can share experiences, and that's very important. Tell the guys, if you go to a booth, give them a little pitch where you are, what you're looking for, because then we as the providers of solutions can definitely address that much better. And I think based on that we can build up great conversations. I love those discussions where we stand together with 3, 4, 5 people and just I don't know, argue about things that run bad, yeah. And I like to talk about things that motivate us. Yeah, people are very passionate in that industry. They like to talk about it, and I personally love to talk about the technology because it's great and it will change the way we interact, or is changing the way we interact with content. And that's why talking to people, like Jay said, is definitely the best advice.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Some very fruitful and positive outlooks for the year, I think. Jay, Lewis, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. You've been very accommodating.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Rory. Have a good day.
Fantastic.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I've been Rory Greener with XR today. We've been joined by Jay Latta and Lewis Ballinger. Thank you so much for watching.